greatest things that we have now that cuts across all ages, especially in America, and that is a cell phone. So with a cell phone and Wi-Fi, whether you're getting it at McDonald's or at home or wherever, it opens you up to being able to take that entrepreneurial journey. So no longer is it about who you went to college with or who you know or your parents' entrepreneurs or which groups are you connected with. By having a cell phone, you can easily start a business on Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer, Uber, Airbnb. You can arbitrage Airbnb. You can start a business on Insta. Like there's no reason you can't, like other than yourself.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Wealth and Christ Show, a show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. On the show today, we have Dr. Kizzy Parks. Dr. Kizzy Parks is the founder of K Park Consulting, and she's the founder of GovConWinners to help service-based small business owners learn how to win profitable government contracts. In this episode, we'll be talking about Dr. Kizzy's journey so far as a successful government contractor. So thank you for being here, Dr. Kizzy.
Yeah, I love being here. Thank you for having me on here.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. I'm doing blessed. To start the conversation, I want to talk about what inspired you to become an entrepreneur.
Man, it was something that I always felt like when I was a little girl. I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. Like I felt it. Like when I was 4 or 5, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur and I knew I was going to get a PhD in psychology. I just would always see everything in terms of money. Like I would sell batteries to my brothers. I resold golf balls. We used to camp all the time. So I would tell my parents, like, you guys should sell this toilet paper to make money because you have to use like a special toilet paper when you go camping because of the septic system of a trailer. So always been entrepreneurial. So like I always knew, but I didn't know when.
That makes sense. And was there anything around you, any person, your parents that may have inspired you, or you just were just talented enough to know this is what you wanted to be when you grow up?
I just knew. I just felt it. There's no way to explain. I just knew, and then they encouraged my little endeavors. But yeah,
That's great.
mhm.
So, going from there, you mentioned you sold like, tissue papers and things like that. So I want to ask, what led you to go and start pursuing government contracting, from selling golf balls, and then what about government contractor, like this is where I want to be and this is where God is calling me to do work.
I was a graduate research fellow at Patrick Air Force Base, and I was walking down the hall, cubicles on both sides, and the director of research, he like popped out. He's like, Kizzy, I heard you're graduating soon, and I want to keep you on as a contractor. How much is it going to cost me? And I was like, deer in headlights, like what? And and then I just threw out this number based on what my friends were making, and I thought I was like negotiating. Clearly I wasn't, because he just accepted it. He's like, yes, I'll have my assistant contact you. And I was like, oh shoot, what just happened? And so at that point in time, it was just me, and I was focused in on diversity and inclusion training, and other grad students were offered the same opportunity. And I just took that and ran with it, because I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I never expected it at that age. I thought, oh, when I'm like old, like 40, 50, 60, I was like, oh, I'll do it then. And so I ran with it and just took 10 long years to learn government contracting, what it meant to run a business, what kind of work to even get involved in. And now I've gone from just me to we have about 100 people, and we provide a lot of staffing and IT and professional services. And the other students who were given the same opportunities, I think all of them like work for someone, or yeah, I think that's about it. I think I'm the only one that who is an entrepreneur and doing this. So it's definitely been a blessing to be able to be in this space and doing this.
That's really great. And you mentioned something, how it when you was, I guess, offered this thing, with a teacher, professor reach out to you about, what would it cost for you to stay on board and continue to work in. And, you never thought about it being a business or turn it into a business. Bless you. Turn it into a business. My question is, and you also mentioned that, you didn't think entrepreneurship is something you could do now as a young person. And, in this current age, a lot of people think that, in order for them to start a current business or whatever they meet, guys call them to do, they have to be a certain age. So what would you say, or how would you advise someone to get out that box, out of that mindset, limiting themselves? They have to be this, they have to do this in order to start what God has called them to do?
Is there's one of the greatest things that we have now that cuts across all ages, especially in America, and that is a cell phone. So with a cell phone and Wi-Fi, whether you're getting it at McDonald's or at home or wherever, it opens you up to being able to take that entrepreneurial journey. So no longer is it about who you went to college with or who you know or your parents' entrepreneurs or which groups are you connected with. By having a cell phone, you can easily start a business on Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer, Uber, Airbnb. You can arbitrage Airbnb. You can start a business on Insta. Like there's no reason you can't, like other than yourself. So
Yeah.
by having a cell phone, I'm not even talking about a computer or even a camera. You don't even need a ring light. You just need a cell phone and you have a desire, you can hustle anything you want. You can sell anything you want. And that's what's so beautiful and applies to everyone of all ages.
Hey family, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are and you have yet to subscribe to us here on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. And also, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts and you have yet to leave us a 5-star review, please do so. Now back to the episode.
You're 100% right. This in this current generation, there's nothing you can do from just starting off your cell phone. You can start anything, like you mentioned. And I want to kind of go into detail about, what are some of the lessons you learned during that 10 years, you was working with that professor and learning about government contracting. What were some lessons you learned during that time?
One of the big lessons I learned was just to trust myself, because I looked to people who were older or seemed to have more experience, or maybe their business brought in more money. So I automatically thought like, oh, they're doing better and they know something. It's like when we drive around, like, so for instance, I live in Miami Beach, and
Mm-hmm.
often people wonder like, what do people do in Miami Beach? You see Range Rovers, you see Bentleys, you see Rolls-Royce SUVs, you see all types of luxury goods. And so there's this thought that like, I guess people just must make a lot of money. I would say it's not the case, because the zip code in America that usually has the highest income, it's in the Virginia, DC area, because of
Yeah.
contracting and government work. So what I learned was looks are deceiving. And it's about you and trusting yourself and going on the journey based on how you want that journey to look. And so once I really started to do that, build my confidence, really figure out what I want the companies to look like, things really skyrocketed. So that was one of the big lessons that I learned. The second big lesson was about you have to be flexible. You definitely have to be like silly putty or slime, glittery slime. You have to be very, very flexible. And in that, with the government as a client, things are evolving. So when I first started out 15 years ago, I was in diversity and inclusion. Like I have a book, I've received coins from government employees and military members. Like I was the go-to Department of Defense diversity and inclusion expert. Well, during the Trump administration, guess what was made basically illegal? Providing diversity and inclusion services.
Mm.
So if I would have stuck with that, I would have completely lost a client.
Yeah.
And I had the foresight in about 2012. I was like, this is going to reach a ceiling. I'm like, you can only offer so many things in diversity and inclusion. I need to get out of that. And thankfully I did that. I was flexible. I was nimble. I started to adapt. And I saw, they need staffing. You can provide training, but instead of diversity training, maybe it's training food inspectors. It's providing IT training, acquisition training. And so that was a really big lesson in that you have to adjust. And then lastly, it was about the power of having a mentor. You cannot do this all on your own at all. I don't care if you hire the best and brightest from Walmart and Google and SpaceX, that would be great and you're going to pay a lot of money. But you have to have a mentor who's there to show you, what they've done and what they know. It doesn't mean you mirror them. You don't copy and paste them. But what you simply can do is learn from them because they've been there and done it. So having a mentor really helped me out significantly. And I have more than one. That's the other key. You want more than one. And it's also ideal to have mentors who look all different ways. You don't always want to choose a mentor who looks exactly like you because you want that diversity from these mentors. They're all going to bring something different.
No, that's very true. And I kind of want to go into deeper because, oftentimes when people hear about getting mentors, I want to ask, how did you go about getting mentors and, having a diversity of mentors? Because that process could be very intriguing, be very frying for people to asking people, can I be a mentor or can I pick your brain? Like, how do you go about building that network of people that you can rely on and, help you grow as a person?
It's about the value you offer. I never really led with can you be my mentor or can I just, have coffee with you? Because then it would come across like I'm just there to take.
Yeah.
So instead, I attended because I didn't have any money. I attended a bunch of free events through the SBA, Small Business Administration, the PTAC, it's Procurement Technical, I think Advisory Council Committee. They've been rebranded to Apex. There's all these really cool free resources. And by attending those and attending government related events, I just started naturally meeting people. And then I also lowered my ego because in order to ask for help, you have to be in a place to really receive it, not just ask for it so you can feel good and then you're still broke and don't have a good business, but I was ready to receive it. And so I would meet with people at these events. I would inform them, and this is vital. Hey, I'm new to this. I incorporated in 2008. It's just me. Here's what I'm doing. And so as a result, some would say, okay, cool. Why don't you come by my office? I want to show you around. And then that would turn into, let me take you to lunch. And then they would start to share things. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really powerful. And then I joined Women in Defense. And I came across men can join it too. It's not just for women, Women in Defense. And I started meeting all different types of people in the defense community in Orlando. Who would have known Orlando isn't only the home to Mickey, but also to, the Department of Defense and government contracting. And so it was really cool. Again, it would just be, hey, you want to meet up for lunch? It was great meeting you at the event. And then through that, I would just pick up things. There was never like, we're a mentor. It's not like you're dating, like you're my man, you're my woman. Like it was just happening. Now
Yeah.
the federal government has an official, like, you're married mentor protege program, which I went through, but I found this woman through going to events in Orlando. She wasn't a stranger. She wasn't just somebody on a list. I didn't go to a matchmaking. It was through these processes, because you also have to make sure this mentor, you vibe with them. You don't want to
Yeah.
have a mentor where you're like, ugh, you don't feel good around them. And so she really showed me a lot of what not to do, a bit of what to do, but I'm so grateful to what I learned from her.
Now that's 100% true. And I don't know if you can share what are some events that people can look into attending, to learn more about government contracting and to network with people in that industry.
Well, if you want to get a list of events, because you practically can't go anywhere to find one, you definitely should go to GovConWinners.com, sign up for the wait list, and then I'll send you information about this list that we have. A great place to go, believe it or not, is Eventbrite, the app. Go on that app and you can type in like HUD, you type in HUD. I think NASA might advertise in there. You can type in like government, small business. So some agencies will advertise on HUD. You have women in defense. You have women in public policy. You can sometimes just Google government events in my area. The Small Business Administration has a list of events. The National 8A Association has a list of events. There's always something going on. There's more and more in-person events. It's just really about, what are your goals? You have to ask yourself, when you go to this event, what are your goals? Is it to learn? Is it to network? Is it both? And also, when you go to these, you have to have a follow-up plan. It's not just going, I met these people, they were great. It's following up. And not only do you want to follow up, but you want to follow up with them at a minimum. You're going to follow up with them within 48 hours, and you're going to follow up with them weekly until you have a phone call with them. And so that's what makes these events so vital. And because there's so many, so you want to be laser focused when it comes to them.
Well, thank you. That's definitely a great tip. And I want to ask, because you said they have to file back in 48 hours, and I know that sometimes people may feel like that is too quick, or like you put you what do you think about that like that, or you just think people should just try to go at it as fast as possible?
Yeah, it makes no sense, because we're going to forget.
Yeah.
We forget. It's three. I mean, if somebody contacted me from an event, I went to an event 2 weeks ago. If somebody contacted me today, I would be like, who are you? Like, I'm being honest, I don't even know who you are. I don't remember you. And I don't carry business cards at this point in time. I just usually scan. That's another thing that's really common at a lot of these events. More and more people, they are using, hey, take my contact card from my iPhone, or they're using different things like hi, hello, other programs like that. Hey, scan my phone. So if you're not scanned in my phone, I don't know who you are.
That's very true. That is very true, because I can relate. Sometimes I do go to a lot of events and people will reach out to me, or I may reach out to some people, and maybe weeks after, and I realize they may not respond to me, but it's like it could be definitely because they don't remember having a conversation with me. Who knows how people ask them about the same conversation? So I'm going to take that for myself as well. And I want to ask, from 2008 to where you're currently at, what were some steps that you took to grow your business to win over $50 million? Like, what are some actionable steps that you have taken since 2008?
Yeah, I'll definitely provide those. First and foremost, I really, 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 I say pulled on my faith. Like, I think God was like, ooh, Kizzy, goodness gracious. Like, because there were so many times where I would have anxiety, and I was just like, oh, am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I going to be able to pay the team? Is this contract going to happen? Am I going to really have a business? Like, there was a lot of, is this going to work? Big time.
Yeah.
Is this going to work? And so I constantly relied on prayer, and I'm a big fan of Joel Osteen. That's just, how I am. And just a lot of that really helped. In addition, I worked really hard on keeping and growing existing clients, because there's some, they get into government contracting, it's like, yay, I won a contract, and then they're winning all these other contracts and their sales look like that, like this crazy chart. And it's like, I take the mentality of like the turtle. It's slow and steady. It's slow and steady. I don't want my sales to be 5 million and then 25 and then 7 and then 15 and some companies have this. And so I spend a lot of time on client relations, because once you get in the door, you want to then get in the family photos, and you want them to give you what's called second money. It's way easier to get second money. It's like, hey, do you want to add a pie to your order? Do you want to do, by the way, we're doing buy one, get one free? Do you want to get a belt to go with your sweater? I mean, it's like all of that. It comes in different forms. Do you want to get the warranty when you check out at Best Buy or Amazon? It's second money, second money, second money. And so when you get in there, that was vital. And so I was able to take contracts and really explode them out from like $1 million to $10-20 million to do that. The other thing was just continuing learning, improving, process improvement. So we went ahead and I started to create a bunch of processes and procedures around HR and other areas. And I ended up getting ISO certified I believe it was December of 2020. Something like that, because it was one of the first times. Actually, no, it was. I take that back. It was 2019 is when we first were certified, because it was before COVID, and we went through that entire process. It was awesome, because then it showed like, hey, we're all about process improvement, constantly making things better. And the government loves having these ISO certifications. It was easy to do. It was well worth the investment. It was the cost of probably what you would spend on a vacation, if not even less. So it wasn't like the price of a car. So that was awesome. The other thing was really growing, working on my, just myself, my confidence. That was huge, because when you're the owner, everything is like a reflection of you. And, the vast majority of businesses out there, about 25 million of them in general, have one employee. And so, you can do things on your own when it's you. About 5.3 million businesses have between 2 and 12 employees. And that's kind of where I was for a long time. Well, now you have other people.
Yeah.
So what you allow, what you do, it has an impact on how they perform. And so I worked really hard to ensure that we were just a smooth moving machine. And then lastly, and this has been the big phase right now, and that is growing things out. I had this mentality of just keeping things really flat, and I didn't really want to bring people in because I was so insecure. I had this view of scarcity. I didn't have this view of like having departments and department heads and things of that nature, because not only that, but when I saw it in practice, it didn't seem to be value added. It just seemed that some businesses just had it.
Yeah.
And they weren't really effective. So I was like, why am I going to have all these departments if what I'm seeing with my mentor or other people doesn't really seem to be working? Well, all that has changed. And so not only over these 10 plus years, but even today, working on restructuring my main company. And that's the other thing that's really key, is back to my kind of glittery, example there. And that is to you're forever evolving. The goal isn't to just have one employee if you're an entrepreneur. The
Yeah.
goal is to take your company to like $100 million. And there's no reason you can't. There are things that you can do. And so I'm working with an amazing team at 10X 360 to have that happen. And then finally was just diversifying clients. Is when I first started out, I was heavy Department of Defense. And since then, we have a more balanced portfolio. There's hundreds of agencies out there, agencies that you wouldn't even know exist. And the government buys so many things. I just knew the government bought staffing, training, diversity things, IT. That's all I knew. And then as time went on, I found out from my colleague David, like, they buy religious services? What? I can staff Catholic and Protestant team
Wow.
members and make money? Oh my gosh. And so we have 5 people in Hawaii, 1 person in Georgia doing that right now. And you can also staff priests, rabbis,
Wow.
music director, a pianist, all over the world. Because military members, what do they have access to? A chapel. Every single military member does.
Yeah.
They're not
Wow.
government employees in there.
Wow. Wow. There's a lot. There's
I
a
know,
lot.
right? Mind blowing.
Yeah, it definitely is mind blowing about government contracting. The more I learn about it, different people have one. I think you're the third person, just to hear about this in a different perspective is very mind blowing. I want to kind of like break down everything you just said for the listeners. One, going back to like your fate, and how it helped you go through anxiety. I wanted you to like, because sometimes as entrepreneurs, when we get it started, we want to do all these different things. We want to compare ourselves to the next person. How did your fate, help you not compare and just stay focused on that task and just going from one task to another, not getting overwhelmed, which does lead to anxiety and all these other different things. And most of the time, most people they quit. I have a lot of people that started, entrepreneurship in 2020, as you probably know. And a lot of them are not in business now because they got overwhelmed, anxiety kicked in. So how did your fate, help you through that process and, overcome that?
It helped me at least stay anchored. I still had, crying a lot, being sad, or like, oh my God, so I want to express that because it was like a day by day kind of situation where you heard how I started, in a
Yeah.
hallway. Hey, you want to be a contractor? There was no business plan, no line of credit, there was none of that. And so I was just like, oh, I'm riding the wave. So I kind of had this defeatist view, like, oh, well, the wave's going to crash. Like, I'm going to fall off my surfboard and go flying face first or get eaten by a shark or something. I guess that's what's going to happen. I don't know. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know people who were entrepreneurs growing up. I had no idea. The only like examples I had were people in Orlando and people who I would meet. Like pretty much no one I went to grad school with was like, oh, I want to start a business. Like I didn't have an example. I mean, I just didn't really have one out there. And so what I decided to do and what did help was just prayer, Joel, going to church, like Calvary Chapel in Fort Lauderdale, Melbourne, Florida has a Calvary, it kept me just anchored where it's like, okay, things may be not where they need to be, but it's going to work out. And especially Joel, even to this day, like there's some things, I've encountered, and I have this little book that Joel wrote and I flip through it and then I read it and I'm like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Because sometimes the belief is, well, things should be going well, they should be more perfect, or why am I having these issues? Why are the people doing this? Why am I having issues with the client? Why am I having this issue with my loved ones? Or why is there a snowstorm in California? Like all of these kinds of things. And sometimes we got to take this step back and it's like, well, maybe this is getting us ready for something bigger.
Mm.
By us being able to get through this is showing our higher power, like, hey, we can do this. We're ready for the bigger and better that's out there. Plus, it shows all of those around you, especially if you have employees or you have 1099s or whoever is in your circle, that you persevere. And so that's how I saw it. It was just like, I'm like, I push forward, I push forward, I push forward. And I never spoke about like so many things in a negative sense because I was before, and I've worked really hard to always be positive and speak in a positive way. Like, I'm going to take my flagship company to 100 million. You know, if I was having issues with payroll, I didn't tell the team because what would that do to them? Make them, oh my gosh, she's having issues with payroll. Why am I working for her? Oh my God. What does that do? It doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
It's going to freak you out. And what we say is reality. You know, our words are energy, they're powerful. So prayer, having different churches, because I moved to Miami in Miami Beach at one point. So I have the Calvary, different books, really, really, really helped just keep me grounded. So that's been really helpful to this day, still the same way.
No, you're 100% right. And I like that, you remind me of this book I read, I forgot what book, but it spoke about, when you're the reason why life is the way it is because we focus a lot on the negativity instead of talking about, how far we have came, how things are better now. And we focus more on that, people want to do more. We will encourage people to do more. When we talk about the negative, like it spoke about in the book, it says it brings the fear, it brings the anxiety, it brings all these different things that you don't necessarily want, but that's what the kind of world that we live in. And, I want to change the gear, but, cause you spoke about, now you're focusing on trying to bring your company to 100 mil. But what was the keys for you to landing your first contract? For someone who may be starting out, what would be the keys for them to get that first contract?
The keys to getting your first contract is you have to have some value, period. Whether the value is you going on sam.gov, you're registered with a cage code, and you find something on there. It could be, let's say, floor cleaning. So I work with entrepreneurs who are in government contracting, maybe have never heard about it, or they're in the middle of being certified to be a government contractor. And one of my clients, her very first government contract was for floor cleaning. And for her, she was like, I just need a contract. If I can just get a contract, she's like, I don't even care about the profit. I just want this contract. Her background is not carpet cleaning whatsoever. And she lives in California. So she ended up winning this contract with an Air Force in Texas. She found a carpet cleaning company. She won the contract. She arrived in the carpet cleaning company. They were nowhere to be found.
Wow.
So she rented a carpet cleaner and did it herself. That's how you get your first contract, because she went on sam.gov. She found an opportunity that I call that's low risk, where they just want the job done. Typically, they're going to base how they award the contract, kind of how they grade the paper, based on your price. With carpet cleaning, you can't really mess that up too much. You really can't. And so they just want it done, just like us. We just want it done. Come in, clean the carpet, clean the couch, bye. And so that's what's key in this space. So her value, she's a problem solver. She's resourceful. She's curious. So by having those qualities, you can easily get your first contract. Also, for those of you where maybe you're like, I don't know, I don't even know if I want to do any of that. I don't know. You can also subcontract. There's a woman, Diane, who's been working with us since about, I think, 2014. Her forte, government resume writing. That's her thing.
Wow.
So anytime we have a need for government resume writing, we hire Diane. We found Diane on LinkedIn for a different client. And so connected with her, found her. So she doesn't have to go on sam.gov. She doesn't have to worry about whether somebody shows up or not. She just shows up to the microphone and sings, right? She just shows up and she presents her expertise. So going that expert route is key too, as long as there's something of value. And for her, it's resume writing. For others, it could be graphic designer. It could be audio, video. It could be that you're a roofer. It could be that you are really big with an experience with mechanical things. But people have to be made aware of this.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is in my opinion, most overlooked social media platform. People think, oh, he's going on LinkedIn. I only go on there if I'm looking for a job. There are people, all different kind of people on LinkedIn, religious people, fitness trainers. This is the gold mine of where to go and to put your shingle out there. Like, hey, I'm looking to work with people on X, Y, and Z, because otherwise, closed mouth doesn't get fed.
That's true.
The other thing of how you find your first contract, let the world know. Hey, I'm interested in government contracting. I would love to sub for somebody. I would love to prime. I'm interested. Put it out there. Manifest. Speak it into life. Because nobody knows and they're not going to think about you. Maybe you have a connection to condensed milk. Bureau of Prison, they buy a lot of condensed milk, powdered milk, cheese, a lot. Well, if nobody knows about this, then how can they go to you for any kind of Bureau of Prison or other agencies opportunities? They can't.
No, you're 100%. You're 100% right about opening up and just telling people what you want to do. And I want to ask what is things that the government looks for. I know you have to write the contracts and things to present yourself to get awarded the contract. So what are things that the government looks like, okay, and it stands out, okay, that's the person I'm gonna give the contract to, versus someone else who may have the same contract for the same job but they don't get it. So what are 3 things, if you can mention, that stands out to the government when they trying to award people contracts?
In many ways, it's just like us. So I'm going to break it down into 3 areas. Think about the last thing you purchased and why you purchased it. There are some things like I recently purchased some bottled water because I'm thirsty. I like to drink almost 2 gallons of water a day. So it was a need.
Yeah.
Low risk. I have no problem buying the 79-cent water. It doesn't matter. As long as it's in a bottle, I can grab it, I can leave it in the car, I can bring it wherever I can go. I need it to fulfill a basic need, period. Right? Same works for the government. If they just need a roof, they need carpets cleaned, they need something painted, they just need diversity training, they just need a maybe an IT specialist. They're like, look, the person who's going to do this isn't going to really mess up too much. We just need the person to do it. So then it may be evaluated based on price, right? I don't make it a habit of buying smart water. I adore smart water. I love smart water, but often smart water costs a little bit more than if you buy maybe the local water wherever you live. Like in Florida, it's typically Zephyr Hills. And the government's the same way. They may say, man, we just need these walls painted. We need the lowest price, technically acceptable is what it's called. And so that's one route. Low risk, usually based on price. The other is like that trap, the back door hidden behind the door. That's through relationships.
Yeah.
You have a relationship, you're creating your own ocean. So now, instead of looking at, especially you go to a gas station, there's like 50 different bottles of water. Yeah. What the heck? I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all this? The same goes for us. There's thousands of people in government contracting. Thousands don't bid.
Yeah.
But because there's so many, the ocean's all bloody because they know I can get these walls painted for like $400. Somebody may have given a bid for $7,000, but somebody else may have given a bid for $350. Just like water. Sometimes you can get bottled water or a can of water for less than $1. Other bottles of water may be for the same size, maybe like $5. What are you going to buy? You ain't buying the $5 bottle. Nope. Not at all. Not at all. Maybe if you had I don't know, a game, or nobody going to the movies, so it's not even at the movie theater.
Yeah.
The same applies to the government. So when you know them, when they know, like, and trust you, you create your own ocean. So it's like just having one bottle of water as the option. So if there's only one bottle of water, I can charge any price I want because it's the only bottle of water you can buy. Hence,
Mm.
when you go to a game or you're at a special event, it's like, man, this bottle of water is $8. Yeah, because it's the only one you can buy.
Yeah. You see, buy it.
Right, you're gonna buy it. And so the same works for the government because they know, like, and trust you. So it's, oh man, no, I love Kizzy. I know her. We don't have a problem paying her what was it? About $70,000 for a 40-hour class. They had no problem with that. Where with other agencies, that's expensive, and so by having that relationship, it really helps you create your own ocean. The other way is they'll come up with different grading scales. So it's almost as if you go from, I moved around a lot as a kid. We moved throughout the Midwest just because my dad worked for different manufacturing companies. And so I would be in school in Keokuk, Iowa, and it was like fun and I loved it. And the next thing you know, maybe we moved to Troy, Ohio or something. Well, the school requirements and their testing and everything was different.
Yeah.
Pretty much all we did was move, and I was in a different grade. I was the same person. And so that also applies to government proposals. It varies. Sometimes it's based on the approach you tell them. Sometimes it's based on your past performance. Sometimes it's based on something else. So it can vary. Typically, the more risk is involved with the thing that they're trying to buy, be it a product or a service, the more complicated the evaluation may be, and the more valuable that relationship is. Because if they know, like, and trust you, and it's complicated, they're going to make sure you score high.
Mm. Yeah, that is wow. That's just mind blowing. This conversation, but I want to ask something because you spoke about price in two different ways. One in regards to like you're the only person, you have your own ocean, your own like you're the only thing, versus when you're competing with other people. How important is it for like how would you suggest people to go about pricing the project? Giving the government a price, as well for them to be profitable. Because you mentioned, the lady, who had hired somebody in Texas, and she had to get the job done. So it's like now she's spending time and it's like it also costs some money that she probably has spent already. So how do you go about managing that, the profitability, making sure you're profitable at the same time?
I wasn't always profitable. So I want to put that out there. It's taken a long time to learn what I'm learning and continue to growing. To get to 100 million, that's why I had to hire someone because I don't know anyone with $100 million business. Can't say I know that. I have, so a family and friends who've been to jail. I mean, but I don't know anybody with $100 million business, and
Yeah.
so I had to meet them and then pay for them because they're amazing. And I, put my faith out there. And so when it comes to price, first and foremost, you must know what are your expenses, period. Because often people think, well, what do I charge and what's the profit? I was the same way. I was like, I had no idea. And I would put out a number and I was like, I don't know. And what really turned things around for me was paying more for stuff. And I'm not talking about a Gucci bag, but different, like especially learning, paying for
Mm,
mentorship. When I started to pay more, then I became more confident, comfortable asking for more
mm,
when it's appropriate. So you must know where your expenses are and you must know the evaluation criteria of that opportunity. If it's lowest price, if it goes back to the water bottle example, I mean, if you want to charge $20 for your bottle of water, that's great, but that's not the market for you to sell to. You got to sell to the Gucci, Hermes market.
Yeah.
That's luxury. So if it's an opportunity where price is not a factor, is what they'll call it, then look at your expenses, look at what profit you want to make. I like to look, my range is always around 20 to 50%, 20% and higher. Some companies may have profit of 5% and then they have greater volume. Some companies have 50% profit and they're making 3 million a year. Well, shoot, that's amazing. I'll take 1.5. I mean, even if you made $500,000 a year and your profit's 50%, I mean, that's $250,000. That's more than most people make in a year in a family.
Yeah.
But it's key. You have to know your numbers. What are your expenses? What can you charge? And what will the market bear? So there's really cool ways to do it. I mean, you can call, if it's something involving painting or floors and get an idea of what people are charging in that area. You can go online on sam.gov to see what agencies have paid in the past. There's ways to figure that out, but at the end of the day, it's about what works for you and what are the evaluation criteria. That's why creating your own ocean is so important, because then you can charge more.
Yeah. No, you're right. And, I want to kind of, continue this conversation in terms of expense. Because you mentioned right now you have like 100 people. You went from 2 to now 100 people. And, the people you hire, they are part of the expense category. And I want to ask, how did you go about, hiring different people? Like, okay, I'm going to charge this much in terms of making sure you're also making money as well. So my next question, I'm going to ask after you answer this, but like, what made you say you need this much people and, how much you're going to pay them as well to make yourself still profitable?
Initially, hired badly. I hired out of scarcity. So I hired people who I thought were better than me and had things I didn't have, when we have everything in us. God has given us everything. Yeah. And so I overpaid and got into $600,000 in debt that I had to pay off. Thankfully, I paid it off in a few years because it was ridiculous. So now, because we predominantly are in staffing and services, meaning a human being is doing the thing, whether it's religious services, exercise physiology, training, IT, a human being is behind it. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for my amazing team at all my companies. So what we will often do is we'll look at, okay, what is the price that we can pay them based on the market, being profitable, looking at how we're paying them, if they're a contractor or an employee. We look at those things. Also, I've handed it over. I mean, it's very clear I'm not very gifted. Well, I wasn't. Things have changed now, but I wasn't very gifted in the hiring area because I didn't know what to do. Although I have a PhD in industrial organizational psychology and we studied like interviewing and things like that. It was very like scientific and research, but I recently went through this 10X 360 and it's blown my mind with hiring. So now I feel like, okay, this is it. What they taught is really important. So, one of the key things is you want to make sure that the people you bring on your team, that there is a value add and you're not putting yourself into too much debt by bringing them on. So you have to look at who's billable and who's not billable. So when you first start out, maybe you need a VA. You can hire a VA from Egypt, which we've done, or Singapore, or what may have you, at a fraction of the cost as if you hire somebody in the United States.
Yeah.
Those are usually not billable. Or if you need billable people, right? Like the people doing the painting, the floors, the training, etc., then what you want to do is make sure that you're vetting them, that the culture that you put out there on your Indeed profile or on your website or LinkedIn or on your Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, it reflects who you are. So you're attracting like-minded people. Right? So if you're, a person, Christianity is super important to you, keep that in mind. And not to say you can legally not hire somebody because they're not a Christian. I'm not saying that, because that's not the case unless it's a religious organization. That's different. Yeah. But it's something to be mindful of. So why not talk about God in your post or on your website? Because when people see it, then they're going to automatically know whether that's for them or not for them.
That's true.
A big thing to do. There's a gentleman by the name of Myron Golden, Dr. Golden. And what I love about him is he puts it out there. He incorporates it, whether you like him or don't like him, but he puts it out there. And one of the things he says is like, listen, if you bought my program and you're not into Christianity, hey, I still love you, ask for a refund. And it's really important to do that because, again, you want like-minded people who are also going to add value. So it's through your marketing, also through the kind of questions that you ask, asking people, what do they know about you in the interview? Asking them, like, what are their goals? What are their personal goals? What are their professional goals? What are their wealth goals? Asking questions that's important. Because you want people on the team who are adding value. The reason we have companies is because we're making money. It's not for you to brag, I got a company. I mean, it's fun, it's cute, but but it's coming from a place of ego.
Yeah.
The entire reason that the tax code has more rules for getting deductions for business owners is because business owners, real estate, agriculture, add to our amazing country, add to our amazing economy. So they want us to thrive. So why not thrive? And the only way you can thrive is through each other, through people. So definitely put resources into that because there's tons of people out there who are willing to work for you, all ages, all backgrounds. I promise you they're there because we're right now working on something where I'm going to provide the team with a huge bonus once they hit 400 people. And I know they're going to do it by December.
That's good. And it's funny you just brought about the bonus because I asked you, I know with the 10X movement, they're very big on incentivizing their employees to make sure they reach all these different sales goals. And I want to ask, how important is it to incentivize your employees, and reward them, as they, getting you more contracts, doing well in the service they providing?
I have the answer with it depends. So initially, when I first started out, I was coming from scarcity, like, oh, I don't want to lose them. You want me to have somebody make your lunch? Okay. I mean, it was ridiculous what I was doing. And so then what happened is I created this culture of like, well, if Kizzy wants something, she wants to pay me. And then it just became horrible. And I still have a few people left over from that. That they're seeing the reality now of like, that's not happening anymore. So you don't want to do that. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Don't do it. Instead, connect a bonus structure, some kind of commission to a actual performance item. And it's not that they did their job. That's the other thing. Oh, they did their job. Let me give them why they did their job.
Yeah.
So it could be connected to, like, for instance, my mentor, if I recall, she would take the percentage of increase in revenue of her company. Let's say it was 4% increase. And then she would take that number and give you as your bonus that percentage of your salary. That was how she did her annual bonuses. That was her. There are other people where they may have an increased 401k matching. Again, you don't have to have hundreds. I started a 401k program when there were only a handful of us. So it's even something as simple as that. Maybe you have matching with your 401k because there's a lot of companies that don't even offer 401k.
Yeah.
So, and then often, and also the bonuses and compensation and reinforcement doesn't have to be monetary. It could just be a thank you card. How many times do you get a thank you card? Like never.
Yeah.
Rarely. It could be a thank you card. It could be flowers. We do that a lot. Edible arrangements. We ask people what their favorite desserts are. We'll send them their favorite dessert. It doesn't matter where it's from. One individual mentioned this Indian dessert. Oh, he got that dessert. You want cheesecake from New York City, you get in the cheesecake from New York City that you like. So that just shows people like, oh, wow, she really cares or he really cares. You just want to set it up where you're not put in this position of like, oh my gosh, I can't afford it. And it's rewarding a desired behavior, be it the revenue goals of your company, be it contract number, second money on a contract. Maybe you want to speed up your HR process. It's rewarding a desired behavior. That's a point of a bonus or some type of other, benefit. It's not because they're doing their job. It's not even because I don't even know about, oh, they've been there 10 years. Well, what if they've been there 10 years and they suck and they're just not good, but you just didn't have enough courage to say bye? But it's reality.
Yeah,
There's
reality.
so many, and I've been guilty of that myself. There were many people I should have let go years ago, but I was scared. And I get it. Oh, they've been with me since the start, but then all you do is complain about them. Like, why? You got to let them go.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and then it's like, well, I got to give them a pay raise. They've been here. Why? Are they helping you make more money? Are they helping you get more contracts? Are they making your life easier? Do you have some kind of standards that you're using to make sure that they're adding value? There's a lot of people who have tenure, but that doesn't mean that they're good. You want your superstars, and maybe just you have to identify what are those things that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because often they're overlooked because of the troubled ones.
Now you're 100% right. As we go through life and you're building companies and, you're building a culture, you want to make sure you're keeping it as positive, for people to continue to want to come there. And, as you probably know, with AI has been constantly increasing, technology is growing as fast. I want to ask, do you have any fear, how how you may have to use AI to replace some of the people that you're currently having, and have you started using AI to replace some of the people that you currently have?
I have used Chat GPT in particular. I have an account. I'm an early adapter to technology. I love it. To write a job description recently. I used it for that. I used it to get YouTube ideas. I have a channel, Kizzy Parks. You can check me out. I use it for that. As far as replacing anyone, who knows what the future holds? One thing about the federal government, they not only spend well over $600 billion a year on products and services, they always need people. They're the biggest purchaser out there in the United States. And so as long as they still need human beings to do the thing, I'm going to keep going that route. But it is something to be aware of. And if it's something that all of you amazing people listening or watching, if you're like, what is that? What is this AI thing? Definitely look into it, because all of the time, companies are looking to decrease their biggest expense. Their biggest expense are people. All the time. I recently stayed at a hotel in Vegas, and they had two robot assistants. They named them Elvis and Priscilla. And if you wanted something, needed toothbrush, toothpaste, a towel, then little Elvis or Priscilla will come up there and deliver it to you. That isn't just for a hotel in Vegas. It's not just a novelty. So many companies would love to do that.
Yeah.
With Uber, with fast food, and it's not, and we may think now just, oh, smart cars. It's going to be more than that.
Yeah.
Definitely be more than that. So take a look, check out AI, play around with like Chat GPT or whatever other options there are, because it's coming. It's definitely coming. And one thing about the federal government is they like the hip, cool things that everybody else has. They're like the cool auntie, which would be me. With baby James now becoming toddler James. I'm like forever 28, even when he's 28. But the thing is, they like the same thing. If they're hearing about Chat GPT and how easy and cool it is, they're going to want something like that too. So maybe you can incorporate that, or at least talk about it, so they think, oh, wow, you're really up on stuff. I didn't need, my kids use that. I didn't use that. Like, people get impressed by that kind of stuff. So I love that you brought that up. It's something to definitely be aware of and to get into.
So would you say, you know, 'cause I know you mentioned that it's not something that is like care, but is care at the same time. How would you say someone should like prepare, you know, because I feel like personally, you know, with a lot of conversation that's going to hit a lot of people and they're not going to be prepared for this change, you know, whether you see a lot of companies laying off people slowly, and who knows what the economy can be in the next 12 months, you know, 3 years. So, you know, how can people prepare? But I personally feel like it's going to be a fast change, you know.
It all begins with that, your mindset and just self-awareness is where it all begins. Because it's easy to live in this world of denial. Oh,
Yeah.
that's never going to happen. I'm not going to live long enough for that. That's not going to impact me. I'm in rural Kentucky or wherever you live. Or, oh, they ain't going to do that in New York City or Miami Beach or Muskegon, Michigan. They ain't gonna. It's easy to say all of that. The
Yeah.
example I like to share, when I was a little kid, I used to go downtown a lot. Like, to this day, I love downtown. Like, I live in this apartment here in Michigan, downtown. I love downtowns. And there was this one particular building where I would go with my mom, and this gentleman would open up this gate, and we would walk into this elevator, and he would close the gate and ask, which floor? And I didn't really realize that, oh man, it's an elevator operator. And although I'm 28 and aging in reverse, I encountered an elevator operator. I'm pretty sure most people listening and watching have never encountered that ever. I'm not talking about a doorman. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about that. That's different, because their job
Yeah.
is not to push the button in the elevator. Their job is typically to open the door, help you with luggage, or they may be sitting at the front desk. Their job is like security, something of that nature. This gentleman was literally the elevator operator. That was a big job. That was a common job from what I heard. I don't know. I only encountered one. They don't exist anymore. That's what will happen. That jobs like that, jobs that you know and you see today, poof, they'll be gone. They'll be gone.
That's true.
And so you just have to be ready for it, because it's already happening. Like, think of how many TV repair, DVD repair shops. Like, and when I see one, I mean, you know, I'm always like, are they really repairing stuff in there? But there's always like one. There's usually
Yeah.
one or two, you know, but that was like a thing. Nowadays, it's like, oh, let's go get new TV, you know, give that one to the kids, or donate it to the church, or donate it to Goodwill. I'm like, oh, look, oh, TVs went down in price. I mean, I'm not to say that you don't have a TV repaired now and again, but even look at something like that. And that's not even taking in consideration AI.
Yeah.
So if you have these positions that are already being eliminated naturally as we evolve as people, think about the impact of AI on this space.
It's gonna be pretty impressive. And you know, I definitely want to say thank you for your time. It's Dr. Kizzy Parks. You know, my last question is, you know, where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years? You know, I know you saying you want to grow this company to $100 million company. So how do you plan on doing that, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years and reaching that $100 million goal?
Well, the biggest way is through a mentor. So plan is through my flagship company, grow it to $100 million through the use of a paid mentor. And then also with my newest business, GovConWinners, I want to do the same. And I want to reach, the goal is to reach 1 billion people in around government contracting. So if it's something that you're interested in, you like to read, check out profitablecontracts.co. It's a really cool download. I would love to be able to introduce you, reintroduce you, you know, whether you're new to government, you're in government, or you're like, I don't even know. Please go to profitablecontracts.co, because that's my goal in the next 5 to 10 years, is not only to grow these businesses, to be able to serve kind of as this example that, yes, you know, people who look like Dr. Parks, you too can do whatever the heck you want. Doesn't mean you have to, but it's an option, it's a reality. It's not just for superstars or celebrities or, business owners that tweet a lot. It's for regular schmegular people like me who's from like Western Michigan. And so my goal is to really reach 1 billion people, because government contracting has changed my life, and it will change your life too in ways that you can't even imagine. So those are my goals, and to continue giving back, to use that as a springboard to also give back more and more, because I have the Kizzy Foundation and really want to flesh that out and do more with my foundation.
That's really great. And how can people continue to stay in touch with you past this interview?
Yeah, definitely go to profitablecontracts.co to get the download. Check out GovConWinners.com to get on my amazing list. Also, you can reach me via text. I have a text community, 305-853-9481. 305-853-9481. And I am the one responding, and it's a real person. And so please connect with me and let me know that you found me on the podcast.
Thank you very much. And for those who are listening, I hope you guys don't see as another entrepreneur, another guest sharing their story and how God has used them. But I hope this encourages you and inspires you. And if you're looking for a group of Christians who are working towards becoming financially free, look no further and join the Praying Invest group. And see you guys next week. And thank you again, Dr. Kizzy Parks.
Thank you.